Zdaj bom pa stopil na drugo stran in bom še v angleščini pojasnil, slovenski del pa predajam najprej Danu.
Ja, hvala vsem, ki ste prišli. Kot je že Rajko rekel, poskušamo danes povezati ornitologijo in antropologijo.
I don't know how many of you are English speakers. So the main issue of today's event is to become, how to say it, attentive for the birds in urban area. The main point when I came across this idea to organize it was organization of sound walks here in Ljubljana and in some other places. And one place where I organized sound walk was Belgrade, in the center of Belgrade. And I noticed, it was April this year, I noticed there were no sounds of birds practically, and this was completely different situation for me. So I said, let's try to do something here in Ljubljana to get information about birds, to experience birds in urban environment, and we are starting this walk here in this place where we have some old trees, and usually we have some birds here. So the rule is very simple: we will walk and we will not talk, but we will listen as much as possible and try to be attentive to listening to birds. And when you will catch birds, try to remember them, and then you may ask a leader from the birds protection society here in Ljubljana. And Dan will be the leader of our walk, and we have an ornitologist here. I hope I didn't forget something to say. At the moment I can't do double job. Maybe Dan will later explain you ornithology part of the walk.
Our purpose in this course, the first lecture, is to show you Ljubljana from a different perspective, from the bird perspective, from the bird view, so to say. And we will combine anthropology and ornithology to show the things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see in Ljubljana, to observe it from the ornithologist's perspective. So we will combine Slovenian and English, and I will translate and show you also what I know about birds, because I did my PhD, it was 17 years ago when I started doing the research about bird watchers. So I was observing the observers. They were watching birds and I was watching them. And because I was interested in their habits, what do they take with them to the field, when do they wake up, and honestly, they wake up horribly early. So if you want to see birds, we would be here not at 1 p.m., but we should be here at 5 a.m. to see the most birds. So next time you come, please come very early if you want to see the real bird life here. And we'll make a walk from here. So this is the so-called Förster's Garden behind the Faculty of Arts. So this is the main building of the Faculty of Arts. And as you can see, there are many trees around here. And you cannot see as many birds as you can hear. So, but what we need to hear them, now there was birds somewhere, you need to have more quiet. And this is again a problem of the city right now, that it's very loud. And because of that, we don't see or hear what is going on around us. But what he explained earlier is that the autumn birds, which are in the city, are completely different than those that are here in spring, because they move elsewhere, so they travel elsewhere, and some migratory birds come to Slovenia. For example, the great tit, so Sinička in Slovenia, comes from Russia, travels to Slovenia, and then travels back. And so it's not the same great tit as it was here in spring. It's another one actually, but it's the same species. So this is what you have to think about when you think about birds, that they're also migratory species, that they migrate like the Erasmus students, for example. You come and you fly away. And some of you stay for longer, luckily. And maybe now...
just here, while we walk, we just concentrate on the birds, so we maybe think about something. I don't know why. This is my first time.
Yeah, you shouldn't think too much. That's the purpose. I mean, try to unthink the rest and try to focus on the bird sounds. And we will ask him. You can. I can hear something here behind you, but as far as I know about ornithology, listening is much more important than seeing. So if you recognize the sound of the bird, its singing, its voices, then you can identify the species. But you have to have a really good ear for that. So it's much more difficult than to look at the bird, and then you have usually some kind of guide. I mean, this is what I use. I mean, those who are experts can identify it immediately without looking in the guide. But the birds don't stand still, right?
Yeah.
And then before you take out the guide, it's gone already. So you have to listen, but the problem is because they make many different sounds. They even imitate each other and sing in different ways. So you have to be really skilled to know which bird is that. And plus, another thing, there are approximately 400 species, bird species living, nesting in Slovenia. And so you have to remember quite a lot about them, how they look like, how they sing, what's their voice. Even for those, like the crow, we say, ornithologists say that it's singing, but we don't usually say it's a song, but it is, Quah, quah. That is a kind of singing. And therefore you have to learn a lot, and according to my experience it takes like years to become really skilled in recognizing birds, particularly in the urban environment because of so many sounds and other sounds. Lišček, now I don't know what's that. I will check what's that in English. Lišček. Okay, I will try to Google meanwhile what the bird is. Dare, koliko je gnezdilk v Sloveniji? 400 približno? Koliko? Vse od vrste pa 400. 250. Okay. Številka se 500. Pa tisto pa ne vem kaj je, ko se nič ne oglaša. So videli, da bi imel malo tako oranžen repok, da je verjeten šmarnica. In ti, ki so na zgradbi, ne bojo nikoli na usolinah gnezdov, recimo.
In s čim se prehranjujejo?
V smetišče. Ja. Pa reko imajo tam samo. Oni so vse jedi, ne?
So this is the bird that is somewhere around here, but I'm still looking for what's the English name for it. Trait of ornithologists, those who are experts, is that they don't know only Slovenian and English names of the birds, but also Latin names. So this is like advanced level then. Carduelis, finch.
A pokažeš enkrat slikce?
Ja.
Nič predlagam, da se počasi premaknemo.
So this is the finch. Observe what is going on around you and try to listen. Not only that you feel with your eyes, but try to use all senses to feel the city.
Jaz jih kakšen ptic zelo hecam poje, tako da ni nujno, da veš, da je ptic. Tako recimo šmarnica, ki poje, ona tako vrdi, kdo si misli, da je to ptic, če jo ne pozna.
Yeah, there is a huge forest,
yes,
and there are many birds.
Yes,
Very nice part of Belgrade, actually. Okay,
it is.
So now we will move on and go near a river, which is not, well, a river, tiny river. And it's not Ljubljanica, it's Gradaščica. And it's also a nice place for birds and for other species which live there.
And the only part of Roman settlement preserved so far, so this quarter here was Roman.
Can you hear the bird? So it's the great tit. You know what the bird is? The great tit. So he says that it tries to quarrel with others. I mean, I'm sure you know it. You do? Yeah? Oh, okay. And in Polish? What?
Gil.
Gil? Oh, okay. And you? You don't know, you're sure?
No, exactly, no.
Where are you from? S Hrvaške. Na hrvatskom isto vjerovatno Sjenica. Evo, čuli smo sad Sjenicu. So we didn't see it.
Yes, before there was a seagull flew over. I don't know if anybody noticed it. Seagulls came to the town 15 years ago to the mainland, and for only a couple of years they are now becoming local. So there is a shift somehow in their habits.
So, and there is another tit here, which is called plavček in Slovenian, but it looks a little bit different. So it looks like this, plavček, but I have to check now what is it in English. Yeah.
So we still know we have birds here, but nobody's seen them so far. They are somewhere here, hidden. So this is the reason why ornithologists say you usually hear birds and you know exactly which birds produce which sounds. And later, if you are trying to see them, you have to be very patient, wait, or have binoculars with you, or a good camera.
Yeah. So the other one that is here, which is a bit smaller, but it's not the same, and it's very difficult to. I mean, it's easier to recognize them sometimes by sounds, how they sing, or how they sound like, than by their image. Because if you see this and the other one, great tit, like to me it looks almost the same. And then there you have these details which are really important. Some spot here, or the beak a little bit longer.
What's the name of it?
The Eurasian blue tit. So this is plavček.
Ja, sam je tako tudi, da ti opazovalci ptičev imajo ponavadi daljnogled, pa teleskop, pa fotoaparat, pa vse živo sabo, ne, in pol to vse preslikajo, pregledajo, pa priročnik za označevanje, pa tam not pogledajo, tako da je vizualno.
So together with binoculars and telescopes, you should always have with you a very good book to define birds, to check.
Tukaj so, ne vem, malo se izrodi.
Last 10 years we lost I would say more than half.
znate biti organiziran.
Dobro.
Nedostupno, da rečem tako.
But it was probably also a better place for birds to live because there was like not the grass cut so nicely as it is here.
Ja, to je kratkoprsti plezalček.
Oh, kratkoprsti plezalček. So I will show you the
To je v bistvu
image.
gozdna vrsta, ne?
So it's a forest species.
Zadnje čase že nekaj let naseljuje tudi takele malo starejše parke. On rab stara drevesa, včasih
Kratkoprsti
ljubje in
plezalček.
pol za ljubjem gnezdom naredi. On rab tokle prostora.
So this is another, oh god, press the navigation. Yeah, so this is the bird. You don't know which one is this probably,
It reminds me of vrabac.
but it's not vrabac. It's plezalček. It's a very small bird species. Is the climber.
But he climb.
It's called in Slovenian. If I translate it, the short fingered, the short fingered climber, and then you have the long fingered climber too. So Certia brachydactyla.
But it looks like here, it looks like vrabac.
Piskanje je ponavadi
Short-toed tree creeper in English. Short-toed tree creeper. So it looks like this, and it climbs up and down the tree. Done.
Done.
Looks like this, but
But is it, this is like his name in English, is it, or is it just
Yeah, it's in English,
translated
in English.
to the...
short-toed tree creeper. It's an English name. So like this. It has a different beak than vrabac. It has like it's longer and curved.
Pravda je
Ključ.
taščica tudi se oglaša.
Yeah, but vrabac has a shorter beak and more like
To pa taščica poje. Škorci,
Ja, točno. Se zbirajo.
voda je tudi pri ptičih zelo pomemben del. Ne?
A res?
Tako da
Oh, okay.
voda, ker se morajo skopati, se pravi urediti perje, ker se jim lahko zamasti uno, ne, karkoli pač in mora imeti skozi v dobri kondiciji perje, zato da lahko beži.
Cute, huh?
Ja, ne znam kaj.
It's a robin. You know the bird?
Like a ball of fur.
Robin bird. European robin, yeah. This is the European robin. And it's somewhere there, and there is also a blackbird, but you know blackbird. Course. You know which the blackbird is? Are you sure? I'm sure you know. One of the most common bird species, oh, but I don't know in Japan.
Yeah,
You don't have it?
yeah. It's first time to see.
Really?
Yeah, we can't see that.
Are you sure? I will Google it. Blackbird, Japan. Because probably you have very different flora and fauna. No, it's just a car here, Blackbird. Blackbird, Japan, so nothing. True. Interesting. Rajko. Yeah. So he's from Japan and there are no blackbirds there apparently. Because here they're one of the most common species. So kosi so pri nas ena bolj.
Sploh v mestu.
Oni imajo pa čisto drugačno to izgleda. Are you sure? I'm sure you know. One of the most common bird species. Oh, but I don't know in Japan.
Yeah,
You don't have it?
yeah. It's first time to see.
Really?
No, we can't see that.
Are you sure? I will Google it. Blackbird, Japan. Because probably you have very different flora and fauna. No, it's just a car here, Blackbird. Blackbird, Japan, so nothing. True. Interesting. Rajko.
Yeah.
So he's from Japan and there are no blackbirds there apparently. Because here they're one of the most common species. So kosi so pri nas ena bolj.
Pa sploh v mestu.
V mestu.
Oni imajo pa čisto drugačno to izgleda
Se tudi velike senice najbrž nimajo.
fauno. Ja, tudi ni vedel. Ne. So the great tit
Evo ga, lep.
probably does not live in Japan.
Aha.
Yes.
Niso podvrsta. Ne, niso podvrsta, ne. Sam naseljujejo drug habitat.
So shall we move on here next to Gradaščica now?
Torej gremo ob Gradaščici,
So we will-
potem naprej oziroma nazaj.
Yeah. So we go now to the department in this direction. But again, I don't know what's the English name.
Ale prve 2 dni je čez neposredno tiče tujih študentov in pa praktično
So this is again the robin, the red breast.
Slišal zbrano sivo, ne?
No. So you know the crow. And there was one. But this is the robin.
Evo, če pa branem, boste slišali, bolj pa kar domov. Domov.
Kaj je bilo tole krakanje?
To je taščica. A slišiš?
Taščica, ne?
To je tole, ne? Ja, to je taščica.
Najprej tisto krakanje.
To je pa vrana bila. No, to imela zdaj za nas. So this was just for us. This song, let's move on. Oh.
Polish is potok.
Potok, okay, in Polish potok, in Slovenian potok, in Serbian potok, in Hungarian potok. Gradaščica.
Slišite? Moram jaz bolj slišati, kot ti to mladi.
Kaj pa je
A
to?
ste slišali? Kos.
To?
Ne, ko piska.
Kaj je to?
To je pa taščica. Evo, pa še malo zapila. Prav, da sem imel prav.
So the
Tačik.
again,
Je čas dela.
this is the robin
Ja,
with red breasts here.
taščica. A pa še en liščik.
And liščik. Liščik is the one that I showed you, which is yellow and red and white. You remember? At the beginning.
Jaz sem dol poje, ena tle se ena, pač ta ne vem kaj, ne.
Pa petelin, ne?
Ker sem prej govoril, ne, te v bistvu taščice imajo ne tako kot sinice, ne, ki se lahko v jatah selijo, pa nekje klatijo, pa obiskujejo, skup hrano iščejo in tako naprej. Taščice pridejo na prezimovanje in imajo svoj teritorij. In zato jih lahko slišimo tako, ne.
Here, I mean, they come from abroad and they're very territorial apparently. They take over a certain part of the city
To je sama, ne?
Ja, sama.
Sama.
Wow. How do you call it? But who has a rooster here in the middle of the city?
Yeah. Plus it's what? It's too.
No,
It's almost half past two.
but it constantly does that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But it starts like at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Pa se zdi, kar naenkrat cela jasa priliči.
All of them start to
Ali
sing
grejo
at
naprej,
the same time.
Robin.
All of them, just all the birds.
Okay.
I don't know why, but yeah. So, so they keep communicating. Also, different species among themselves. Yeah, and they also not only communicate, but they also cover each other. So they.
So they
They-
understand each other.
Yeah, of
Even
course.
though
No,
they are
different
different
species, not, but the same species. I
Ah,
mean,
okay.
there is an alarm, like there is, I don't know, predator coming, so
Yeah.
one of them starts to
Make the alarm.
to make a very loud noise.
razen tisti, ki so prilagodljivi. To je ena ali tudi to na krmilnici, ne tudi ne veš, dokler ni označen.
So this is a place very near where we live. So there is the house back there. And why is it important? Because during the COVID pandemic, during lockdowns, it was a very interesting situation here, because there were no people here on the playground, and I was able to observe every morning. I mean, otherwise I was able to observe children playing here in the playground, and then, like in a couple of weeks, it emptied, and birds started to flock here on this playground and invaded the playground. And one of them was a hoopoe. I don't know if you know that bird. So smrdokaura, which came here. You know that one? So we call it in Slovenian smrdokaura, which is the smelly bird. Or even I think in Slovak and Czech Republic they call it petelinec zasranec or something like that. So the shitty rooster. Why? Mislim, da smrdijo iztrebki, ne? So they have
Železo imajo posebno samice, pa mladiči. Samci pa ne.
So
Ona, ki je v gnezdu, ko pride kuna noter, oni riti brdi bi pošpricajo.
So the little birds and the mother has this gland which sprays out very smelly
Pekoč, tako.
liquid, and it can, if for example a weasel tries to get in the nest, they start spraying it. So the male doesn't have it, the female and children have it. So and it was very fascinating to see that bird, which is very rare, so it's zelo redka v Sloveniji, to walk around here, and it was a huge attraction then, first for us, then for ornithologists, when I posted the video, because I recorded the video and posted it on Facebook, and then wow, a hoopoe, really, where? In Ljubljana, incredible. Then I didn't know whether to reveal the location or not, you know, because then we would have like not only the hoopoe here, but maybe dozens of ornithologists observing what's going on, or animal lovers. And then I just generally said, yeah, it's somewhere in Ljubljana. But it showed at the same time how the city can change in these times when there are no people here. And you should see Ljubljana at that time. It was very, so to say, Instagrammable, completely empty, no people, and in a way beautiful, because people and their activities are that sometimes disturb the beauty of the city. And we could see it from a completely different perspective. I don't know how it was in your cities, in Belgrade or in Pristina or in Kanazawa, but I guess you had a similar situation. If there are no people, the city is different and you can hear the sounds. Then you could really hear what's going on and see the creatures walking around, flying around. Siva pevka. There is another bird here, siva pevka.
Medtem ko bo Dan iskal podatke, še jaz povem, Dan je tole epizoda seveda sproti objavila na Facebooku, potem pa še v knjigi. Ampak ne spomni se naslova knjige.
Aha, yeah. So I forgot to say that, yeah. So I was writing in April and May 2020 every day what was going on, because I had a problem, an issue that I was stuck in as an anthropologist. So the title of the book was in English, Indoor Anthropology, Antropologija med štirimi stenami. And so each day was a new episode. Because
to poglavje prav o tej smrdokauri je eno od tistih nasilnih.
Yeah, so it was one of the more important chapters in that book, which later became a book. First it was just posts on Facebook, but also methodologically I think it was important. So this is what Rajko and I wrote about in an article titled To Be or Not to Be There. So because for anthropologists it's really important to be there. You have to be there with people on a certain location to understand it. But we were not able to be there anymore. I was not able to travel to Kanazawa, for example.
Enako velja seveda tudi z ornitologe. Ornitologi tudi morajo biti pri pticah.
Yeah.
A smo še kaj slišali zdaj?
So siva pevka, I have to check what the bird is. Siva pevka. But it's called siva pevka. So reče se i siva pevka. Aha. It's a kind of sparrow, ene vrste vrabec. Mislim, nam za rekel ene vrste vrabec. But it's similar to...
V bistvu je značilno zanjo to, da jo lažje slišimo, ko vidimo.
So it's easier to hear it than to see it, because it's hidden somewhere constantly. Tako kot kosec, recimo, ne? Ja. I don't know what is kosec in English, krex in Latin. Corn crake, yeah, it's a similar bird. It's very difficult to see it, but you can hear it because it has this very special sound.
Mogoče še eno tole pri zvoku, če vas lahko prosim za čisto nekratko, da pojasnite. Ornitologi znate ločevati seveda ptice tudi potem, ko slišite njihovo prhutanje med letom. Koliko je to mit, koliko je to res?
Mislim, ene vrste se da.
So you can even distinguish some birds by flight, how they fly, I mean by the sound of how they fly.
Zvok spušča z perutnine, recimo kozica, to je en močnirski ptič, ena meketa, kako dela s perutnine.
So there is maybe another interesting thing that I found out when I was doing research, when I was observing the observers or watching the bird watchers. So how do they recognize the birds? By sight.
Kanja.
Yeah, like this, exactly. So there is a predator, kanja. Buteo in Latin. We'll check what is it in English. But what he did now is exactly that. So he recognized the bird, as the ornithologists say, by G's. So, po G'su, da prepoznaš ptico, ne? So what is it? The G's. And then when I found out that there is the word G's, it has no sexual connotation, even though if you Google it up, there are some things that come out like that. So the word comes out of probably general impression of size and shape, and the term was used during the Second World War when the army had to see the enemy planes and shoot them down immediately, and then you had to decide whether it's ours or not, and it was like 1 second and you had to do it. But it's not true. Then another possibility was that is the shorter for Gestalt. You know the word Gestalt from psychology, that from some dots you can immediately recognize a bird or a dog, for example. You probably saw that image of the not the Saint Bernard, but the spotted dog. What's the name of that dog? The Dalmatian dog, yeah. So you just see the spots and say, aha, it's the Dalmatian dog. But then I researched a little bit further, and apparently it comes from Irish, English, and they used the word jizz to describe this just sudden impression when you see a person walking there in the dark, and you recognize the person by walking, by this, just by angle of your sight. I mean, by the you know, by the edge of your eye, you recognize the bird or the person or whoever, and then you can pretend that you recognize the person or you didn't, and you just pass away. You know, I mean, pass by or pass away if you're ashamed or something. Anyway.
Skratka, imeli smo spopad tam na nebu, a ja se še vidi delno.
Zdaj trenutno, če pa bi bil to spomlad, bi pa recimo zaradi tega, ker ima tem mladiče blisko, da bi Italija se brala mladiče, zato jih ne marajo. Vrani so res, ki so res dobri. Neverjetno. Da so se dričali po snegu, kot da bi se mi recimo sankali.
So he says that crows have they're incredibly smart, and they even sled on the snow like children, enjoying it, and they even put some nuts on the road, so the cars crash them and they take the nut, and so on. Gremo, so we will move now to our last destination.
Kanja, Miša.
Slične ali manj.
Počasi pod planinskimi kočami smo ti pobirali.
Ne verjamem.
Polno teh.
Tehnika sadne stolice.
So this is the final stop on our way there to the Podjed.
Anyway, if you take the bus number 6 or 1, you can step out where the Faculty of Arts is if you have some classes there, and then you can walk here. On this side, it's much nicer. Just to let you know. Okay.
Ker je vse regulirano, ne more gnezditi, ker ona gnezdi v držini na tleh. Ti gladki, ne, če bi se recimo eno količko na šraufu gor, pa bi tam gor naredila. Naslovi so fajn, samo so preveč betonski stol, ni nobenih niš.
Yeah. If there were more niches there, so this is no? Siva pastirica.
Skratka, na koncu takšnih prehodov dana bom prosil, da malo privajam angleškim študentom.
Does he speak English?
Takšnih prehodov se praviloma nekje v zaprtem prostoru dobimo in potem prediskutiramo vaše prve vpise. Ampak takrat bomo pravi ostali tukaj. Da bo malo več ptic slišati, hkrati pa malo manj prometa.
Rajko is saying that he expected there will be less cars and more birds, but he was very optimistic, I think. So if you have any questions, please ask whatever you're interested in. But what because the purpose of this exercise is to show you that there are also other ways getting from point A to point B here in Ljubljana, and that on some places you have more birds, less people, and for the next time we also suggest you to use different ways, to get here, for example. Why? Because you will see different parts of the city, and you will find out more about the birds which are around us, and about people, and about sounds that humans do, and about sounds that animals do. Because this is the soundscape of the city. It's constructed of everything that is going on, from the traffic to the birds, to the bicycles, to people. And as anthropologists or students of epistemology of everyday life, it's important that you are open to all the impressions that you get from the environment. Now you can hear the motorbike, and it's also a part of the soundscape of the city. And it's not only sound, of course, it's also important that you look around, that you feel, that you touch, that you use all the senses. This is the purpose of the sensory walk, to understand in different ways how a certain place is constructed. So this is really a simplified version of what he said.
You asked about the sound that you also heard when we were back there.
Really?
This was, I think, another taščica.
Okay.
Because taščica makes different sounds. No? Every bird has several sounds. Maybe we can ask if there are different populations having different dialects.
I think they do actually. So I will ask him. So, tule eno zanimivo vprašanje. Ima ptice različne dialekte?
Ja. Ščinkovca, angliš, tle pri nas našega, ko poje, angliš ne bo predstavljal. Pa je lahko ornitolog, pa ne vem ščinkovca.
So the English finch, if it comes here from England, it will not be an ornithologist will not recognize it, because it sounds completely different than the finch from somewhere else.
Do they communicate together even though they have different
dialects? I have to ask him again. I'm translating. But he understands Serbian. The old trees are very important for the birds in the cities, because they provide very old trees, because they're bigger and they provide food for birds. This is why it's important also to protect the old trees, not just to plant small ones, young ones, but to protect the old ones, because it's ideal for birds actually.
And he said there's 4,100.
Well, he said, look, there is like maximum 400 species that were counted in Slovenia, but there are a little bit over 200 nesting here. And they're different winter birds, winter species, and species in the other parts of the year. Spring, summer, autumn. They even have special atlases for winter birds and for the nesting birds. Because some birds flock here, from elsewhere, make a stop, and then fly away. And there are like some very bizarre species coming here then. And this is what ornithologists are most attracted with. So what are these unusual species which come to Ljubljana, or even in the UK they're even more obsessed with birds. I don't know if you know, but in the UK they have one of the oldest and largest bird watching associations in the world. It's called the Royal Society for Protection of Birds, RSPB, and it started, I think, in mid-19th century. Why for protection of birds, not for observing of birds? Because it was supported. At that time it was very popular that women decorated their cats with feathers, and then people said we have to stop this strange habit, and then this is when they started to protect the birds. Because the first bird watchers, how they did it, they shot the bird. They didn't look at it with binoculars, they shot it, and then they looked at it, oh, nice, and then many times they ate it, of course, or stuffed it. And nowadays the bird watchers, according to my experience, don't do it. This here, not in Slovenia. They particularly watch the birds and again protect the birds. So why is the protection part so important? Because their natural habitats are disappearing. And if you don't protect the habitats, you don't see birds anymore. And now protection of birds is another big thing. And in the UK, again, according to my research, this was a hobby for elderly men. In Slovenia, it's a hobby for young people. Men, women, doesn't matter so much, but it's not it's not so like male specific and age specific like in the UK. One thing is of course the tradition of bird watching, which is way longer. Here it's quite a recent thing. The association, Slovenian Association of Bird Watchers was established in 1979 only, and this is maybe interesting. It was started by a poet, one poet who really had this crazy idea. Crazy. At that time, completely crazy. So let's make an atlas of all birds that live in Slovenia. The nice one is about a elderly couple who went on holidays to Spain, and then they were called back in the middle of the night. Somebody rang them up and they answered the phone and they said, you have to come immediately back to England, there is a certain bird species there. And they packed everything, traveled back to the UK, and then took their binoculars. They had them with them in Spain, of course, too, but went to that place, and then there were already hundreds of bird watchers watching that bird, you know. And then next morning they talked and they said, but there were like hundreds of those birds in Spain in the front of our hotel, the same species that they saw last day. But it didn't count, you know, because it was not on their national list. So you had to see a certain species, bird species, in a certain location that it counts. So you have to collect them, but not everywhere. If you see, I don't know, a blackbird here, it's not worth as much if you see it in Japan. You see? So this is similar as Pokemon. So in some places it doesn't matter if you see it. It has to be there.
Interesting point.
Yeah. So I really recommend, if you want to find out more about bird watchers, that book, Birders' Tales of a Tribe. Yeah, because it shows how, it also explains how they dress, how they make up also bird sights, you know, because they want to be cool, like as if they found or spotted a certain Pokemon. They just make it up. And this is a big mistake if you do it and others find out about this, so that you were lying about your spotting the bird, because others check it whether the bird was really there, and then you have problems.
Maybe the bird
flew away, yeah, of course. Or there are stories like, because in the UK, for example, not only older men, but also housewives are those who make, I think housewives are those that in England make most bird spottings. Why? Because while cooking, for example, they look out of the window and then, see a certain bird, and they call immediately RSPB, so that they see something interesting, and then they can check it. And they ask her, what kind of bird was it? And then one of them called them and said, so there is a huge, quite a big bird here. What color? Purple. And how does it look like? It has a long beak. And they were checking in this list, what could this be? And then they went there to her house, and there was a flamingo there, which escaped from a zoo or something and flew to her garden, and she was observing the bird, and she thought she didn't know what it was, she just wanted to hold them. Yeah.
Nice view while you cook.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a flamingo, it looks nice. Here at the building. Okay, you're here at this is the department, not this building, that building.
Examitis.
This is it.
Okay. Okay, I know.
You came here.
Now I...
We can walk actually there. So there are also Karens. If we go over there to this